now streaming live. Twitch. How do I make this stuff go away? Got it.
Netta, I think we could maybe get started.
Yeah,
because
sounds
I'll
good.
read my introduction nice and slow.
Yeah, feel free to get started whenever you want. We've got a few people tuning in on Twitch. We've got 15 people on Twitch.
Hi, everybody. Wait, can you turn the music off though?
Where's my
Nice.
volume control for Zoom?
You all good?
Yeah, here it is.
Cool. Okay. I'll just go ahead and get started and do some introductory things while folks roll in and tune in on Twitch. So
What are they
hi.
seeing? Are they seeing both of us or just you? Or what I'm
Right
seeing?
now they're seeing both of us. Would you like to disappear for a moment?
What's this? I keep getting these pop-up things. Oh, it's from you, administration. Okay. Works,
Yeah, that's the Zoom chat.
works for me.
Okay. You can be seen. I'm gonna get started, Kit.
Okay.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Celine Wong Katzman. I'm co-director at the School for Poetic Computation. Thank you for joining us tonight for a conversation with Kit Galloway. Some housekeeping before we begin. This Zoom event is being recorded and live streamed to Twitch. We're going to keep this recording for our archive. We ask that everyone joining us on Zoom keeps their mic muted during Kit's presentation, and there'll be an opportunity to ask questions afterward. If you're experiencing any issues during the event, you can write to SFPC co-director Netta Bomani, who's watching the chat. Thank you, Netta. Hi, Netta. For those of you who might not know what SFPC is and might be tuning in on Twitch or Zoom, I'm going to tell you a bit about who we are, our project, the Electronic Cafe for Poetic Computation, and our guest speaker, Kit Galloway. So the School for Poetic Computation is an independent experimental school in New York and online. We offer accessible education for learners of all kinds to explore and mobilize art, code, hardware, and critical theory in service of a more just community and world. Our classrooms are spaces where participants ruminate on the meaning of study and the importance of art and technology education. This online program is a part of SFPC's summer residency at Recess, which opened in July and which will conclude on August 12th in 2 days. Wait, yeah, 2 days. So sad. For this residency, we transformed Recess's Brooklyn space into the Electronic Cafe for Poetic Computation, an internet cafe and community hub that is free and open to the public. You can see a photo of it in my and Netta's Zoom backgrounds. ECPC is inspired by the Internet Cafe as both a virtual and physical connection point, offering many possibilities for collective learning and the practice of a more creative, empowered, and just relationship to technology. We invited visitors to participate in workshops and events that offer hands-on opportunities to learn to use technology for curiosity, joy, and liberation through activities like music making, setting up our own servers, and building websites. We created the space to investigate and transcend the tension between exclusive art and academic spaces and people-first community spaces. We see this project as one in a lineage of art and community endeavors like Kit Galloway and Sherry Rabinowitz's 1984 Electronic Cafe, a multimedia telecollaboration network that transformed informal community venues in Los Angeles into a networked cultural organization. Kit Galloway and Sherry Rabinowitz were introduced in Paris in 1975 by their mutual friend Felix Guattari and remained inseparable until Sherry's passing in 2013. In their decades-long collaborative artistic practice, they explored the potentials and limitations of emerging human-to-human, multimedia, telecollaborative, and teleimmersive technologies and environments. They have exhibited at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles, at the 1988 Venice Biennale and Documenta 9, at Ars Electronica, and in many other venues internationally. Their collaborators have ranged from large organizations and companies like NASA and Viacom to small local businesses, including the Gumbo House, Anna Maria Restaurant, the 8th Street Restaurant, and Gunter's Cafe in Los Angeles. I could say more, but Kit will do it better. So I will hand it over to Kit to present now. Thank you. Kit, you can show your screen now.
Okie dokie. All right. Well done. So share the screen. Share. What is it doing? I am sure I see myself. You see my desktop? You are screen live. There's a lot of extra stuff up here I don't need, but so yeah. So I'm supposed to start off with so I have things to show and tell. And so yes, Sherry was brought over to Paris by Felix because he wanted the video equipment that we all loved and used. The French raised the tariff on it so high, it was 3 times as expensive as anywhere else. So like activists or other people, individuals couldn't afford the small format video. So he invited Sherry to come to France and gather tapes up across the country, and then we would present those tapes when she got there. And I set her up at the American Cultural Center to give her shows, and we did shows in different cities. But and when that job sort of wound down, we got together and started to reinvent ourselves, what we were going to do. We were both sort of like tired of making videos and trying to get them seen and stuff like that. And so we'd kind of hit the wall on that. And neither one of us were really sort of like really into the art world. So what are we going to do? So we decided that rather than making videos and stuff, that what we really saw that was important was the idea of telecollaborative environments where people could get online and see each other and hear each other and make love to each other and tickle each other and draw together and all of that kind of stuff. And so that was kind of way ahead of us. So we did write up some projects and concept ideas, which included an electronic cafe network. But we fell back to, we got wind that NASA had a broadcast satellite, an experimental satellite that they were looking for proposals for different applications. So we hopped on a Soviet ocean liner and went to New York and landed there at some friend's house who were in the video world, and wrote up a proposal, went to Washington, D.C., and they bought it. And so then we went back to New York and packed up and moved to the West Coast, back to Berkeley, where Sherry came from. She had a video group called Optic Nerve, and they did socio-political kind of stuff. And I'd been with a video group in Amsterdam, the Video Heads, and we did a big thing at the ill-fated Munich Olympics, and in the Paris Opera, and eventually moved down to Paris from Amsterdam. And we were hired to do interactive windows in the Sony showroom on the Champs-Elysees. So we're in Paris, and we get the news, and we head out, and we get the satellite. We go to the West Coast and move in with Michael Rossman, who was one of the three leaders of the free speech movement in the 1960s, who was also involved with Lee Felsenstein and Community Memory. So, but all of that computer stuff was still not reachable. So what we did with the satellite was to create what we called, what we were describing as the image as place. And television had done remotes, and there was always a split screen and all of this. And as we usually like to say, what's taking so long? So we got some dancers and rehearsed, and sent two of them to the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, where they track all the deep space vehicles. And then we went to the Ames Research Center in Menlo Park. And we did all this outside, not inside, because we wanted to see the light change, difference in the time zones and all that kind of stuff. And we worked out all these scores. And I can show you some tape of that. Maybe we should.
Yeah, Kit, do you mean to be showing something right now? Sorry to interrupt you. Do you mean to be sharing right now? Because
well,
it's not, there's nothing.
I have to open this up.
Okay, okay. Just checking.
Yeah, okay, here we go. So I'm going to scrub through this. We don't have time to see the whole thing, but this was this people call the Sputnik moment of cyber arts. I don't know if I may not use any audio. So yeah, here we are. The image is place. So I showed this the other day, but this is the delay of the satellite going 22,000 miles up and 22,000 miles down. And that's the delay, which is about 1/4 of a second. And the funny thing is, so people could still perform together. And this is where we're trying to sync up, or get out of sync, actually. Whoops. So one of us has their hands closed, but because we're out of sync, we are in sync. So this led to a whole series of projects and rehearsals. And here they're doing an exercise to feel the first time in the composite image. This is the first time we threw them in the swimming pool, and they're doing this exercise to get the feeling for the delay, so that they could sort of try to sync up and perform together. And number of performances, events. We only had the first day, and we didn't have our light set. We didn't have enough monitors around. And then the following days, the satellite broke. And they gave us a 4th day, which we put them in a football game. He's going to kick a field goal. Do it. And soon, there we go. So we were throwing them into different environments. So this was just like tuning up. So on the 4th day, they got the satellite working again. So we bounced Cage's image up to the satellite and back down and mixed it. And the time delay, those echoes are multiple trips echoing back to the satellite arts project. And so that's what that was all about. The next thing we did in 1980 was Hole in Space. This became kind of, the art world made this our one-hit wonder because it got so much exposure. And some of you may be familiar with that. And so satellite was used to, and a giant screen rear projection in the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, and a giant window in Century City.
Step it up with time in front of the Lincoln Center.
Did you get that? Maybe not. So this was up for 3 days.
You hear what the girl said earlier in the day?
Wait a minute.
Shall I rip? I do. I wish I could be on both ends of it. Did you hear what the girl said earlier in the day? Shall I repeat it? Somebody asked her, what's your name? She says, none of your fucking business. She really did.
Do you like that?
Very much, very much.
Why?
I think it's fascinating
Tell me why you think it's fascinating. Is it different?
because it's extraordinary and it's really remarkable. Everybody's enjoying it. Caught.
This is a game of charades.
Kit, can you remind us like what is happening in these videos? Like exactly, like your there's
I'm drowning you
two,
out.
you're
My-
drowning me out.
Yeah, okay. What were you gonna say? What are you saying?
Can you remind us or re-explain like what we're watching documentation of, like what is happening in these two different locations and like how they're connected?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's this going to be? Yeah, well, here's the window. This is a drawing in the Lincoln Center that we were in the mezzanine, and we had to put up these pipes and put up fireproof cloth to black our presence out. And so the people on the outside are seeing this 10 by 12 image that's filling the whole window frame. So it kind of made it look like you were not looking at a window, but you could see your reflection come back. And then there was a video projector, and it's the same setup at both ends. And we didn't want to light the place artificially, so we had black and white cameras that were military grade and they could see in low light. And then we also beefed up the light by using infrared emitters that the camera could see. So the people were being lit, but They didn't know it. Um,
And there were two of these setups, one in New York and one in LA, right?
yeah,
And folks were playing games with each other and communicating. And
Well,
it
yeah,
was
let's
at the
see.
time quite a novel experience, right? And that's what we're watching in these
Yeah, yeah,
documentation. People like the surprise of it, like the surprise of that first moment
yeah,
of
it was
connection.
unannounced. People had to discover it. We didn't put up signage and sponsors or anything like that. I'm looking for shots kind of way. So on the second night, it was covered by the news, and so in LA and in New York, and inviting families to call their loved ones in New York and LA, family members meeting people that they hadn't
They will be
seen.
again tomorrow night, Century City and
They hadn't seen some family members in years or decades. So this is a mass. Babies being held to the screen. People got. People got too close to the window. It was out of control. But
He never saw my brother, my son, and I never saw my nephews, but I didn't see them tonight, but I saw him. That was enough for me. I got to see my brother, and it just brought such happiness. Like now I can go to bed peacefully. I'm in heaven now.
what gave you the idea to do that?
well, anyway, does that give you enough idea, you think? Let's see.
Yeah, of course.
So
just so you know, Kit, the audio of your videos is not like shared. It's coming through your speaker.
you're not hearing the audio?
It's kind of like touch and go. I think it's because you like when you share your screen, there's like a little box on the bottom that says check that you check that says share audio. And I think what you're doing right now is not sharing the audio, but playing it, and your computer mic is picking up. It's fine. I mean,
So
we just won't be able
the
to like,
webcam is
hear it.
hearing my speakers.
Let me see. It yeah,
Okay.
I think it's audible, but it just sounds a bit like tiny.
Tinny.
Tinny.
Is there something I can click then to put the audio?
Yes. So if you stop sharing and reshare, I can guide you through it.
Okay, how do we stop sharing? I should know this stuff.
There's a
stop
button
sharing.
on the bottom of, yeah, there you go.
Okay,
And then go to share screen, click on that share screen button.
yeah,
And then at the bottom left, there's two check boxes.
share sound.
Yes, and make sure share sound is selected, as well as optimize video clip.
And then hit share.
Yes.
Goes away. Okay. So what else can I say? Yeah, questions. So yeah, we just let people discover it. And actually after the first night, the next night we were dark and people would show up, and we just wanted to slow it down because we knew it was going to build up and people would be falling into the street and getting hit by New York cab drivers. And so we just wanted to slow it down. So they had to come back the second day. And then that was a great evening, what people did together. So I think it was a beautiful portrait of humanity and the things that they did and the games they invented and the stuff that they talked about. So I think that's about enough for that, you think?
Yeah. Maybe soon we could talk about Electronic Cafe 84.
Well, we'll, let's see, we'll skip ArtCom. That was a class we did, so. So let's go to that. And do we want to just watch it through, and I might stop and talk and say something, or you might ask a question?
Yeah, why don't we do that, and you can like give us your commentary over the video. That sounds good.
Okay. Need more real estate here. There's no audio at this point. I could hum something, but
Why don't you introduce the project while this is rolling in?
well, it is introducing itself. Here are a lot of people that we worked with, Asian, Black, Hispanic in the eclectic beach area, and the museum itself, where the computer was based. That's the Mexican restaurant that's inside it. This is Black South Central, the Gumbo House. That's the best picture of the museum. That's inside the museum. We created a pictorial database. Let's let it go here. We had these drawing tablets that people would draw on top of the video captured images and annotate them, make text bubbles, photo novellas, and two people could draw together in the screen at the same time. And because, and people could write in Korean or, any other language. So at that level, and
electronic use so that people can now have that leisurely cafe type interaction with other people
This is
miles
TV
away
coverage.
at other locations.
So, okay, I guess we'll let this go.
It's a unique telecommunications network and archiving system for communities and for cross-cultural communications.
That's from the pictorial database, running, just playing back.
It's good for the business. More people is coming over here, take a look at it in the cameras. Take a look at it in the
Cafes kind of one, the cafe.
Electronic Cafe, though it has a good ring to it, I think, really came about by describing what the system is. And we designed this communication system to facilitate as many different kinds of communication as possible, and in a sense to emulate a real cafe in the sense that you can walk into a cafe and in one table people can be having a serious conversation, another table people are flirting, somebody else is just watching what's going on, somebody else is writing poetry, somebody else is drawing something.
Some people are actually eating or drinking.
Right, good point. Yeah, all those.
The control is at the Museum of Contemporary Art downtown in Little Tokyo. That's where the brain, the control for the computer is, the video disc, and that's the first locale. Then we go east a little further to 8th Street on the corner of 8th Street and Normandy. That's the 8th Street restaurant in Koreatown.
We have one in East LA, which is in Ana Maria's, which is basically a Chicano-based place.
We go a little further west in South Central Los Angeles to the Gumbo House, which is New Orleans-style food. And then finally we have Gunter's restaurant in Venice.
First, sometimes people say, well, I just came here to eat, but while they're eating their meal, even their children will come over and use the telewriting equipment to draw to another person in another restaurant and get feedback on their thoughts or whatever. And people have come back just to come use the equipment as well as eat the good food at Anna Maria's.
This is an ordinary camera, black and white. And the camera then goes to this device on the table here, this robot research slow scan transmitter. You push a button, it will take still pictures of it, which can be transmitted or received. Now this telewriter here is a French-made device, and it is a teleconferencing device, and he is writing with one of the other restaurants. What we have here is a computer terminal, which is connected to, and all cafes have a terminal like this, that's connected to a mini computer by Plexus. And there's some software running on here called Community Memory. It's designed for being set out in public places, which allows people to put in ideas or information, to participate in conferences or topics of discussion, and if there's nothing there that they're interested in, they can open their own topics of discussion. Each of these devices have a telephone, and you push an auto dialer which lists all the other cafes, and it'll make voice contact, and you talk to a person and decide.
All of the places they had conferencing bridges for the audio and for the video. So because it was the Olympics, people like a dance company from Nairobi went to the Gumbo House. And so the Gumbo House announced that they're going to have an event. So at that time, all the other cafes could dial into the audio bridge and the video bridge. So any cafe could broadcast stuff to the whole network.
You realize that just the ability to communicate on the visual plane tends to help us democratize those issues that get lost when they're put out in the didactic written form. Because if a person comes on and they start talking to us in Korean, or even if they know that we don't, which they do know that we don't speak Korean, they can talk to us in a visual context with the slow scan. So again, we're able to bridge, we're building bridges, we're bridging those boundaries that, let's say, are in the world right now that naturally keep us from being able to communicate. So people who are in the Spanish community can communicate their expressions. They do a very interesting way of doing that just in terms of the drawings that they create. And when we draw together, we get even more of an experience about what we're trying to say to each other, because that becomes a universal. I mean, everybody in every culture doodles. I can just put it on that level without trying to make it so grandiose.
What all these pictures on the walls here at MoCA represent are just, maybe 1% of the transmissions and the prints that have been made over the system. Each community came in and put up some of the transmissions and the work that they felt represented both their community and also represented the interaction and relationships that took place over Electronic Cafe. Each community had a space to work on, and however they represent themselves is how it is. So I think, I love it. I think it's a great, wild conglomeration and design of all kinds of energies and feelings, and I think each community is revealed in it.
Well, that's
As poems in the interest of getting the business taken care of, I would be very much interested in any dialogue or discussion people would like to have over the content of the poetry. Maybe the ones I've chosen, people we have difficulty responding to.
Hello, I'd like to thank you for all of it, and especially the last one.
This is a poetry reading between Black South Central and Venice Beach. And there was an issue. The Black poets were not applauding the women's work, and they were applauding their work. And so they discussed it, and they decided to meet at another real place in the flesh, both of them together to iron things out. And I guess it went pretty well. I wasn't there, but let's see what Ulysses has got towards the end.
I know that you must be a poet.
Dealing with the unknown. I think that's one of the biggest fears that we all have, and this certainly for a lot of people has presented, and not an unknown to a certain degree, but the apprehension level that may have been, or that is, let's say, in society, about the rumors that the high-tech world is on the horizon. And when we're sitting around here, it's not on the horizon, it's here. So people come face to face with that reality, and we start from there.
Questions?
Now this telewriter here is a friend.
I think we're gonna save questions for the end. Let's just keep plugging along.
So let's see.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about like how this project Electronic Cafe 84 came about, and like just a little bit, some general background information about who was involved?
Yeah. Community Memory, friends of ours, and Sherry interviewed them. It was the first public computer bulletin board created for the public. It was, they actually, instead of keyboards, they actually had clatty clack clack teletype keyboards. What can I do with this? We buddied up with them first. So our job was to sort of monitor the latest developments. See what the abilities the Electronic Cafe had was, primitive compared to what we have today. But the keyboard was going to be the only porthole into cyberspace for a decade and more after 84. And so we would watch to see when various devices would begin coming out with an RS-232 port, which means you could jack it into the back of the computer. So the slow scan transmitters that we got hadn't been released yet. We got like serial number 2 through 8, and they weren't released to the market. Also, the telewriters came out with a port, and a couple of other things, and so that meant that we could at the museum where the large computer was, it was hooked up to an optical disc recorder, and it was hooked up to a slow scan transmitter. And so as people did things, they would go into community memory, write a descriptor for it, then load it up, and it would load up to the slow scan receiver. The computer would then take that image and write it onto the optical disc and give it a number so it could be looked up. So it was a keyword searchable pictorial database, and it you know, so video could take pictures of hand drawings in the crowd and people, and the telewriter did its job to annotate photographs or just make drawings together. But so that was the limit. But we so we did what in knowing what was coming out and being able to systems integrate it and to work with community memory that wrote some code to make all those things talk to each other. So we were just making the best approximations we could to reveal and expose to the public a multimedia telecollaborative environment, not just text, like MUDs and MOOs and stuff happened for so long. So, and to make it more inclusive, not everybody knows how to type. But artists and others can just walk up to this stuff and figure it out and you know, let it roll. And so it was up, the network was up for 7 weeks. And then it came to the end, and we're still in touch with a lot of those people after all these couple of decades. The cafes, some of them wanted to see it go away, and some of them wanted to see it continue. But the video printers cost $30,000 a piece, so we had 5 of those, and nobody could afford it, and it would have been difficult to maintain. And the whole network was run over regular POTS, ordinary telephone lines. No broadband, nothing like that. And so this was sort of like our way of showing what we saw as what things had to go and what's taking so long. So this was a pretty good approximation. This didn't happen anywhere else. Nobody was, you know, stepping that far out. So the idea came. So after Satellite Arts and Hole in Space and Electronic Cafe 84, we had reached the limits of models. We were tired of building up these things and then have to tear them down. So that's when we moved towards establishing a permanent place, Electronic Cafe International. Where'd my thing go? Oh dear. You might be in trouble. Or not. Right, okay. Get over here. Electronic Cafe International, well, that's just a monster. It's 10 years of doing thousands of events and New Year's Eve around the world celebrations, and we can look at some of that, but we linked up with the people in the biosphere. We had international Japan, all different countries linked up with poetry signing. This is kind of like after an event, and everyone's just sort of hanging out. The lady in the dress and the guy there, they're at our place, and everybody else is in Paris. Percussionists are at our place, and the other 3 jazz band people are in the Electronic Cafe Copenhagen. This is a composite image-based dance. The choreography was developed over the full motion video machines, and then this was performed. A lot of
Ladwina Van Ness and Alan Crawley, who are both there.
This is the VR. So people started coming to the Electronic Cafe, and the virtual reality community was established, and a bunch of other organizations that would meet at our place on a monthly basis, and all kinds of things going on. Cal Arts, and they used our place for showing new musical technology.
Virtual reality potential developers to.
We also, this is See You, See Me. We were the Blendo station where we could blend online See You, See Me and you know, other media types and live video. This is our place with the kitchen in New York. We did lots of kids' days when kids came in. We hooked them up to other places, and they would run the place. They would just take over. This is drive. The video is pretty bad because. But we're driving robots at the Marshall McLuhan Center. They made like these skates with motors on it and a camera, and you'd use the touch tone dial on a phone to drive the robot forward. And there were other robots too. So if you got up to the like pulling up to a stoplight to another car, the video would switch, and you'd be able to see each other and wave at each other, and then drive away. That would break the two-way video link between the operators.
In New York?
This is Mort Subotnick, reality engine. We were creating VR objects and mapping video on top of it.
And can you tell us in what year was that?
Oh, that's the early 90s.
Farm girls.
Let's see, what have I got here? What is this? Oh, this is playing.
Hold it in. Instruments.
A lot of international music. A MIDI phone was invented at the Electronic Cafe by Mark Coniglio. That meant that you could take MIDI data out of synthesizers and stuff like that and shove it through a modem line. We had Yamaha Disclavier pianos so that Terry Riley could be in France and play on his synthesizer, and the MIDI data would be streamed to us and dumped into our player piano. So you'd see the keys move as he was playing it. There's oh, this is a theater sport with Copenhagen.
And you can keep an awful man down.
I wasn't born.
Okay, another folk song, Born in Argos.
Theater sport is when you have theater companies, you know. I don't know if it's a real profession, but it's kind of like what they do for sport. And so we had theater sport people at our place and in Copenhagen. And so one team makes a suggestion to the other to do something, and then they have to do it. So it was suggested in Copenhagen that the people at our place in the little box had to make a song about Aarhus, the town that they were in. And then the audiences and
Go out to the world, my friend. Don't stay right here in our room. And I did. I was born in our room.
Let's see. Cat interview. Poetry, TV. Where are we on the time clock?
Maybe like you have like 5 more minutes to show us some more from Electronic Cafe International.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, you know, yesterday when we were talking, you showed, I forget which folder it's in, but you were showing a collaboration with an organization in South America. Do you want to talk about that one?
Ooh, let's see. South America. Vermal ones. Well, you know, we also had vermal worlds that we created. I don't think I can find that. Let me look at this.
I know the amount of documentation you have of all of these projects is really quite incredible. And yeah, it's understandable that you could get lost in it.
Yeah, it was an even million things. So we had these, you know, the VR community and everything, and they made an actual to scale, dimensionally correct version of the Electronic Cafe. And that's me under the spinning e-cafe globe. I think I showed this to you the other day when we were doing stuff. So it's the physical place, and people could come and could go through it, and you know, if they were coming to do an event, they could get the lay of the land. Where is it, that robot? Come on. Yeah, this robot, if you clicked on this robot, it would take you on a tour. You wouldn't have to drive around. There are, I don't think I have the Viacom stuff.
What was Viacom's involvement in this project?
They put a couple $100,000 in the place, and we did an event. We did a lot of work with them, and do I have it? Show video. Final arts. Yeah, I'm not going to get to it. What's this going to be? Yeah, I can't get there from here. Let's put in the end show video. I thought it would be in here, but it ain't. Well, so should we talk?
Sure. Do you want to tell us a little bit about like what you've been doing to like preserve and organize this massive archive a little bit?
Oh yeah, it's a monster. There's well, the old videotapes that you can't play anymore have been sent to Stanford. They're taking our archives, and they build the machines that can play old video formats and transfer them. And I'm doing that a lot myself. So there's hundreds of hours of videos. There's thousands of images and slides and documentation of events. And it's just an arduous job. It's just I've got over 150 hard drives dating back to the 90s up to I guess 10 years ago, and I'm still making more now. So there's different file formats, you know, the things that we were able to do and stuff. The applications no longer work. So all I have of it is sort of like video documentation of it and when it was running on the screen, you know. And there's objects let's see, go. Did I show this is what the electronic cafe is like? And then we got like we were in the early 90s, we had internet access, and we were giving a free email access to people. This was a device for the black and white still video things. We had 100 people spread out with those things, and they just worked over telephone lines, but people could store things in this picture phone gallery, and the kids could, there was a place where the kids could send pictures of themselves, and the software would may screw up their faces and send it back to them, and all kinds of widgets lying around. Those are the black and white video phones. We bought a bunch of them, and we would like put it in a box and with a Mr. Coffee and ship it to the Inuit Indians and the Eskimos and the Aborigines in Australia. We did lots of things with the Soviet Union. Let's see who's this, and political connections. So there was always something going. There was days of rest, but we weren't open every day. But we were event driven. Just handicapped kids, and the New Year's Eve around the world celebration, where we would start with Australia and then get many time zones, not all of them, until we got to New York and across Chicago and Denver and the different time zones. And then we'd stay up until 3 a.m. to welcome Hawaii into the new year. I don't know if I talked about this yesterday, but this was a complicated event. Avatars were starting to appear in the early mid-90s. That could be operated online, but you couldn't get two of them in the same screen together. So we had a human avatar dance with this avatar, which was, I guess, the 30th anniversary of satellite arts. And that took a huge team of people here, like all of these people. That's Bliss. She was stuck in there, but these Silicon Graphics, all kinds of Mark Pesce, who invented Vermal 3D stuff. These are all how. This is an electronic cafe in Germany that went to the Venice Biennale. They were in another Biennale in Germany, and they served beer, and we did the hookups and stuff like that. And but when they got to Venice, the mafia had control of all the alcohol inside, so they had to set it up outside of the venue. And these are 3D worlds that we participated in, and we created our own. seen this. This is a shot of Viacom. Look, they built all of this old stuff, and they threw a lot of money at. We took their money, and after we did a big event with them, we kind of walked away. Oh, this little thing. That's the first slow scan video image sent from a cell phone during March in Washington, D.C. I can't Sherry's artwork on the first color Mac. Famous actress. Here's the world that I built as one of many, many, many locations, and the people in different places would step into this world with their avatars, and the audience wouldn't sit in the chairs; they had to stand. They couldn't sit, but to show their approval, they would float up into the air. I've got video of that, but this is just places. These are these don't work anymore. This is QuickTime VR, where you put a camera in a place and take 360-degree pictures, and this stitches them together. So normally the way it works, you could zoom in, you could grab and sort of like look all around the place and zoom in. Terrence McKenna in New York, Ralph Abraham, chaos mathematician. Omarka bases. Let's see what we got here. Oh yeah, we had for a year. These are 4 of the biospherians that we linked up with video and did things with. And the air got too bad and they had to leave. This is like Jaron Lanier, Namjoon Paik, what's his name? Politicians, comedians.
Kit, how many people do you think, like, if you had to make an estimation, how many people do you think participated in or like were touched by Electronic Cafe?
Huge.
How many collaborators did, yeah, huge. How many collaborators did you have? And
we didn't charge
yeah.
anybody. We had 50 institutions around the world and another 75 people with various types of little still video phone thingies and stuff like that. And so yeah, we've got lots of TV coverage from Japan to Australia, New York, Chicago, not just news clips of, you know, they came and, you know, made these, which I have.
Well, you asked me to keep you on track, and I feel like it's time maybe to just have a chat if you feel good about, unless there's anything really have the urge to share to close us off.
Yeah, well, I would have gone to that other video, but I'm not quite sure where it is. Here's Timothy Leary at our place. This was actually 2 days before he died. Here he is hanging out with us. Here's a 3D thing I did of you. It's a cross your eyes kind of thing in front of Electronic Cafe with an eyeball.
Yeah, I can see you're really your favorite symbol.
So, what do you want to talk about?
Maybe you could stop sharing your screen and then we could see each other and have just a couple questions, and then I'll take some questions from folks in the chat. Okay. But okay, so I prepared a few questions. The first of which is, so SFPC is really inspired by the way Electronic Cafe like both electronic cafe projects created a friendly space where artists who are working with new technologies could convene with people who are perhaps less familiar with these mediums and explore them together. And I was curious, I mean, especially really about the first project, Electronic Cafe 84, like what were your expectations when you first decided to do this in terms of like how these communities would interact with each other, and were there any kind of notable surprising moments of community crossover during the project?
The original,
Basically, like what were your expectations? Like did anything surprise you? And then were your expectations like met or surpassed?
well, in the beginning, we never solicited museums. They solicited us, and usually we said no. But in '84, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles came to us and said, we want you to do one of those communication things you do. And we said, well, we have an idea. We want to put cameras on both coasts and time everything, and working with JPL to get the navigation of the moon, because it's not used as a navigational device. It's moving too fast, but we got all the numbers on that. And we wanted to do a thing called light transition. So throughout the day, you see, it starts at when the sun's at the center of the country, and the shadows, the light is equal. There's clouds too that could kind of screw that up. And you'd have a stake in the sand, and the oceans are coming in and out, in sync and out of sync. And then we would come, let that, and so it ended in a simultaneous moonrise in the Pacific, and sunset in the Pacific, and moonrise in the Atlantic. And so that was too scary. So we said, well, here's the other thing that we're thinking about, and this is Electronic Cafe Network. And so they bought it. They had some money, but we raised, from all the companies we knew and all of that, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. They all like to play with us. And so we had potluck dinners. We thought we were going to have 10 cafes. Thank God that didn't happen. We probably would have died doing all that. But with the Russian community, all these are like, people live in these pods practically. LA's a lumpy stew, And we went to the Russians, and we went to the Chinese and the Japanese, and several others, and we would have these potluck dinners, and we would invite artists and stuff from those communities and any community leader who might be interested. And we would sit down and we would talk about how to do this, and that we're going to have to train people to do this, but it's going to create a really interesting situation for artists to explore and use these technologies and kind of knit these globs together, network them together. And then it turned out that the museum didn't have enough money, so we had to cut it down to this point. So everybody was on board, and we had the artists from the communities that know their communities to pick the cafes that were going to participate. And we were given a large office at the Santa Monica Airport, where we set up as the training lab, where all the systems operators and the assistants and the Indian guides, we had an artist who would show people. We had people that could keep it working. We had people that worked it. And we had people that were hosts that invited people to come up and do things. So all that training was done. And then it was sort of getting all the printers and the equipment and the computers and everything together, and setting the computer up And so the expectations were, the question was, what's going to happen? You know, what are people going to do? Are they going to be afraid? But we did a good job of lowering the intimidation of this technology. It was kind of on a table and didn't look scary. And yes, there was a computer, but with all of these welcoming, inclusive capabilities of drawing and picture taking and all that, artists started showing up, and then other people started showing up. And then people came in groups to the places to visit, to see what was going on. And it just worked for 7 weeks, 6 days a week. And so, you know, people found their way, their own thing. Some people opened topics of discussion and text, and, you know, so there were text people and there were drawing people, and after a while, pretty soon, like 9-year-old boys would start showing up. And they would say, let's see what happened when you push all the buttons at the same time, you know. And then they started running the place. That gave the you know, the trained people, you know, they could go leave and do the laundry or something, you know. The kids could run the place, not at every place, but. So it was a beautiful thing. It all worked, and it was a leap forward. We moved the ball forward, definitely. There was nothing else like that yet, and got beyond the keyboard. But you know, the keyboard's important too. So,
you said during your talk. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm very curious. You said some of the cafes really liked having hosting the project, and other of the cafes were ready for it to be over.
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit
there
more
was just
about that?
there was just one. It was Gunther's at Venice Beach. It was a kind of a boat run by a German fellow, and it was a kind of a small operation. And we made it very busy, but he was saying, it sounds like a taxi dispatch center here. You know, you're driving me crazy. And when's this gonna end? And, you know, people met people, and they traveled into these neighborhoods that for the rest of their life, they never would have dared do that. And people were coming and going, and people come from East LA and walk in the door, and everyone would say, hey, Ulysses, or whatever. And because they met people. So there was a lot of hanging out, and a lot of people hanging out, and a lot of people coming and going, and a lot of people trying it and saying, this is not for me, or whatever. But it created a huge family, and got these people talking to each other.
And are you still in touch with some of the folks from the project today, or did people go on to collaborate on?
No, we're still
similar projects.
I'm not actually emailing or Facebooking everybody, but everybody that's still alive with that project is connected with it. And then they all sort of came along also when we opened Electronic Cafe International. The people from Ulysses and the Korean and from all the communities, East LA, they were ready to jump in and help or do whatever they could do, and design projects and performances. And they were all artists. They could do shtick. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to squeeze in my last question and then get to a couple in the chat.
Okay.
But I mean, my last one's kind of, or I mean, it's a little silly. I mean, I noticed that you said Facebook and email, which are ways that you're keeping in touch virtually these days. I guess I'm curious, you know, in 2023, many years after your radical experiment in telecommunication,
Telecollaboration.
Telecollaboration, sorry. Excuse me.
Okay.
Have the technologies that we have today, has that development kind of turned out as you anticipated, or has it surprised you in certain ways? And are there any like platforms or tools, contemporary platforms and tools that you find exciting, or do you think it's all garbage? And I have to ask you, this is so like dorky, but did you see the announcement for the Apple Vision Pro? And if so, do you have any thoughts about it?
I'm not, when did that get loose? Apple
maybe like a month, or it hasn't come out yet, but there was this kind of,
I haven't seen an ad. You know, I might have been looking at the TV and fell asleep. I don't know, but it's probably all over the place, right? So I don't
okay,
know.
well, I'll have to follow up with you about that separately, but are there any tools that you find exciting, or does it feel not so exciting right now for you?
Well, there's a lot, but I'm mostly working on the archives. I'm trying to get out from under this mountain. And so I just do a lot of Zoom stuff and email and I'm on Facebook, but I'm not there too much. And Messenger is really getting weird for me. I'm getting so I kind of tone it down a little bit. I'm not really into it, and I've seen a lot of things go bad. Zuckerberg and stuff. They want yeah. It's maybe a video I might show, but you know, he wants us all to be avatars and buy and buy our clothes at some sort of swank gift shop to dress our avatars, and maybe buy a bed and a couch and an end table and a vase and some flowers, and it's but if I may, no, I won't. I showed you the other day of the people, this composite image space that we were doing created phantom touch. People, you can't, if you haven't experienced it, you can't even imagine what's possible. But we have this video of two people in two different places, and they're caressing each other and all of that. Do you remember seeing that?
I remember.
That's what I want to see. I want to see images of us, not plastic avatars, occupying those spaces. Real representations of course they can't be real because it's virtual, but at least it looks like me, it acts like me, it talks like me. It's pretty much a replica of me, and I'm operating it. But so there needs to be a sort of projection technology that fills the room, and all your friends are in it, and you're in it with them. That's what I want. Not
okay,
avatars.
well, we got to build it. I'm going to look at a couple questions from the chat. So it seems that folks are interested in Viacom's relationship to your project.
It's kind of
I think both, like, why do you think Viacom was so interested in investing in the artwork? And then also, I'm so sorry, my cat is trying to sneak onto my screen right now. And also, Galen says, it seems like there was quite a lot of investment from tech and science industries put into the hands of restaurants and grassroots communities. Curious to hear from Kit what it was like to be both artist and intermediary between this big investment and the people who were using the cafe.
Well, we were a little bit crazy, I guess. You know, that was our job. And we were often approaching the industry, and Xerox Park invited us up, and Interval Research, and we were running with a pretty heady crowd of people and aspects of the industry. And they started coming to our place, and and we'd be part of SIGGRAPH and other technical things, like we did a 10-city musical event with MCI. What year was that? Mid-90s or something. And then we would, and so we did that for them, and then we would we'd take the cash and just if we needed more from them or whatever, or we just sort of like closed the door and didn't want to play anymore. And that's kind of how the Viacom thing was. They seduced us with lots of computers and $150,000 full motion color video conferencing technology, and they put a T1 line in our place and all this kind of stuff. And what they wanted to know was what is the next interactive involving TV thing, so that MTV could explore there. And so that, you know, they were shopping for ideas, and we weren't going to lose anything. But when we quit, they quit. I maybe several people got fired at Viacom, but and we did a big event with them, and that was the closure of it. But it went on for about a year. But yeah, we did an event that ended with the MTV dancers in New York and in Santa Monica dancing together, and we said, "Okay, we're done here." But yeah, they came to like the Kit and Sherry school of you know, messing around with this stuff, and they were all in.
Yeah. Okay, one more question.
There's a
maybe
video
before-
online.
Okay.
Actually, the guy who was the director of this at Viacom, he was a controller. He was like, you know, the buck stops here. And he fell in love with all this stuff. And we had kids events. They brought kids into Viacom, and we had kids, and we just did a whole bunch of really fun stuff. And but there was a video made of the final event that we did, and he has it on his website that I could make available. But yeah,
Yeah,
it was,
or you can
it
send
was
it to me
Graham
after, and I can-
Nash playing with a violin player in New York. It was perfectly in sync. They hadn't met before, but of course musicians don't have to know each other to play together. They can just walk on the stage and do it. But we did a whole bunch of stuff with interesting people, and you know, they were into the star power kind of thing. And so anyway, it was really sort of like, we'll take your money and we can play, and then when we get tired, we'll go away. Hi, cat.
This
Wait,
is
it's
Melon.
magic. It's a magic cat. It's disappearing. Okay.
I'm going to read maybe just one more question, just because we're almost at 8:30. Oh wow. Well, there's two questions, and now I feel like I want to give time to them both. I'll read the latter first, because I'm reading it right now. Celine wondered at the staggering amount and variety of items you've amassed over your career, Kit. I sympathize, since I'm hoping to include an archive of theater-wise nearly 2 decades of work, currently a multimodal mess of text, videos, rehearsals, performances, interviews, etc., and art like puppets in the library and collections. I'm a big believer in asking for help when I realized I sorely need it, so inviting community members to help curate and creatively memorialize all this stuff. Do you have any thoughts on attempting such a grassroots archival project?
Well, all of this stuff, and there's things in public storage units that are made out of steel and bake in the sun and turn into an oven. I got stuff here. We've had to evacuate a couple of times because of wildfires. So the deck gets shuffled and things go crazy where they are. Where'd that go? Where is it? Let's get it back. And I have a ton, and I'm out here in the high desert where there's there's no nearby university or to get people and stuff like that. So I'm at the point that I have to go back to Henry Lowood at Stanford and say, listen, may not happen unless you throw some people at it, get them in here to help me do this. So it's not going to happen. It's pretty clear to me that there's too many things, too much to do, too much to resuscitate, and too much to organize. And I've been doing it here for on and off for 10 years. And haven't really put a dent into it. And so I got to put up a white flag or a call for help. So I'm going to start making calls to see if otherwise this stuff, I'm going to croak and this stuff's just going to, what's going to happen?
I think it's good to ask for help when you need it. And I can only imagine how difficult, or I mean, maybe not difficult, but intense it would be to archive, like, first of all, such a volume of material. And secondly, I feel like it can be really emotional to go through like footage from so many years ago. And
that's another thing.
I think
I open a box and then I start crying.
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And it's so like emotionally intense. I mean, I often think about, what is going to happen to the School for Poetic Computation's archive as well, which is, an intense network of relations between people. And also ours is more scattered. Like you have a lot, but it's all in one place at least.
Well, it's in 2 places right now.
Oh, 2 places, but yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think there are a lot of people out there. There's a TV show that's kind of funny and sad. It's called Hoarders or something. And it's stories about, they take the camera in and this person has got like 1 million blenders or something, and it's just crazy. But I think a lot of people sort of go through this, how am I going to get this archives organized? It just must be something like a virus going around. People have a lot of stuff. I have a lot of stuff, but yeah. So,
well, I think we're at about time. So
what ending.
I know we just talked about blenders.
Okay.
Well, my cat is telling me it's dinner time, so I have to go. But seriously, thank you so much for sharing that with us. It was so wonderful to see even just a snippet of this massive collection of material that you've amassed and maintained about this very special project.
Yeah. Sorry if I was a little tired. I'll tell the audience that a woman came up to our back gate in the middle of the night screaming hysterically, and we had to call the medical people to take her away and make her safe.
Well, you did great under those circumstances. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I guess, Netta, should we sign off? Thank you, everybody.
She's still there?
Yes.
Okay, thanks you guys. And good luck to your venture, and stay in touch. How it goes.
Thank you.
There you are in the upper left
Bye,
hand.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.